A very good evening to our viewers, and thank you for joining us tonight on the agenda. My name is Toibonje Bella, your host. Tonight we are very privileged to have the Director General of the Anti-Corruption Commission, Paulus Noa, in studio to speak to us about, of course, the institution and the battle to clean our country of corruption. Mr. Noa, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, wonderful. The ACC has been in existence for I don't know how many years now. My mathematics might be 17 years or so, since 2006 roundabout, with a sole mandate, of course, to combat corruption. And you've been the boss since then. Looking at that journey where you found the state of corruption in the country to today, would you say that there's been progress in really combating this scourge?
Yes, I do. I do strongly believe that there have been a lot of interventions made, and we also see the level of bigger corrupt practices reducing as a result of efforts that are being made. Remember, I'm not attributing all these efforts to Anti-Corruption Commission only. I'm attributing this one to other institutions. Be it the media, be it the civil society institution, be it other public institutions, the police, financial intelligence center, and also regulatory bodies. These are the bodies that supervise how other institutions must conduct themselves, like we have the Bank of Namibia, we have an Amphisa, we have a BIPA, and many others that I may not have mentioned. You know, all these institutions have contributed to the reduction of the level of corrupt practices. And also, credit must also go to our government and the parliament. Parliament has passed effective laws because it's about laws. These institutions operate because of laws that have been put in place. Without the enactment of law like the Prevention of Organized Crime, the Anti-Corruption Act, laws that establish the Namfisa and many other laws, you see, the institution would not be able to effectively operate because this is a country that is governed by rule of law. Anything that you do, you must be mandated by the law.
Yeah, absolutely. The common man would. There are still these beliefs and perceptions that the country has high levels of corruption. Is that perhaps partly because of the slow wheels of justice? The number of convictions, for example, are not, and there's always the back and forth communication between your office and the PG, for example, that maybe people want to see more speedy executions of these duties?
Yeah, well, you mentioned about the common man. A common man has a different understanding of corruption. No matter how much we try to explain, through awareness and engagement with members of the public and so on. But remember that a common man, the situation people find themselves, make them to believe that every unfortunate situation, it's because of corruption. Because ordinary member of the public believes that anything that they perceive to be morally wrong, that must be termed corruption. But not really everything. Even those who are unfortunately not in employment industry today, they try to relate this unfortunate situation to corruption, which is not really the case. There are some contributing factors. The economy itself, which is not really performing to the level that we all wanted the economy to perform. And it's a global trend, unfortunately. It does not only affect Namibia. It's very unfortunate, and we all feel the same pain the fellow Namibians are feeling, those who are on the street and unemployed. But it's not really everything that is corrupt practices. Yes, I'm not saying that there's no corruption in Namibia. Definitely, Namibia being part of the global society, there is corruption, just like corruption is also happening in other societies. But what I'm saying is that in Namibia, there are efforts that are being done by the either Anti-Corruption Commission or other institutions, as I have mentioned, including you, the media industries. You have done a lot to make sure that our democracy is gaining deep root, because it's about democracy, it's about governance. That's where you start. You know, agencies like ACC that investigate should be in the secondary position. The primary responsibility of all of us is to make sure that we put measures in place that prevent corruption.
Yeah, it's good that you acknowledged the role of the media, Mr. Noa, and I want to still commend you. I think I've said this to you before, but I want to commend you because you're always accessible to the media. We harass you a lot, not in the technical sense, but we really, I mean, a lot of other people would send us through to their public relations officers and say, oh, send the questions there, then we have to send emails on letterheads. The bureaucracy is just too much. But I think you recognize that as a boss of the ACC, you need to promote also transparency and accessibility, and I think you have been doing that successfully. In terms of successful convictions, what are the numbers? Maybe the numbers, you don't have them now, but how confident are you in the number of cases that ACC initiated and investigated that led to successful convictions?
All right, as we are speaking now, we have submitted over 800 cases to the Office of the Prosecutor General. Yeah. And a lot of these cases, the Prosecutor General has taken decisions and made us went to court, either in the High Court or in the Regional Court or in the Magistrates Court. And I know that over 500 cases have already been in court. Some of these cases, over 200 to 300 cases, conviction has been already obtained. There are some cases that are still pending in court, especially when a case is in the High Court. It tends to go a bit slower because of various factors. Yeah. You know, we have a constitution that guarantees fair trial, and whoever is being prosecuted is entitled to legal representations. Sometimes they get legal representation and they fire them, hire other lawyers again for one reason or another. Some lawyer also withdraw from some cases for one reason or another. And then there is this case of issue of interlocutory proceedings as well, where you find they want the court to pronounce itself on certain interpretation of certain sections, either a section of the law which was used during the course of investigation as against the Constitution. Again, that has to be given precedence before they proceed with the main trial, if it still have to go for a main trial, because it may be the end of the matter on technical grounds as well. It all depends how the court will decide. All these things result into the delay of the finalization of some of the cases. You are not an alien to Namibia. You know of some of the cases that are still in court today, that we started, which some of these cases are now 15, 16 years old, you know, but they are still in court. They have not yet been finalized. Yeah, because of all these other factors plus others that I've just articulated.
Trials within trials and stuff like that.
Yes, trials within trials.
Yeah. What is how capacitated is ACC? Do you have capacity? Do you have expertise to investigate high-level corruption cases?
Yeah. When it comes to human resource, I would not say that we have enough staff. Yeah. Remember how big Namibia is, and the Anti-Corruption Commission has only 30 investigators for the whole country. This number is just not enough. As I'm speaking to you, I'm planning to set up an office in Rundu so that it can cater for Zambezi region, Rundu West, Rundu East, part of Hangwena, and part of Oshikoto region as well. Yeah, because we needed to have an office that side. For now, we only have a head office and 3 regional offices, which is not enough to cater for the whole country. And as a result, we need the additional human resource. We are in the process of restructuring the structures of the Anti-Corruption Commission, and hopefully public service may understand. Remember that public service is also bloated as we are speaking now, and it has become very, very difficult to get new positions to fill. Yeah, it's very difficult. I'm not guaranteeing that they will get additional staff to work, but it's necessary. On the skills that you have just also asked, you see, I do not know of any institution anywhere in the world that has got fully equipped capacity in terms of skills. You will have skills, but you still need support from outside when necessary to do so. That's why even the Anti-Corruption Act makes provision for outsourcing when necessary. For example, I can give you an example. When we were busy with some of these bigger cases like the fishery case, we had to outsource some of the forensic work to forensic institutions to carry out, because it's a mammoth task that cannot be done by the Anti-Corruption Commission alone. Small unit within the Anti-Corruption Commission could not manage to do the forensic investigation as much as we wanted it to be done. They have to team up with the outside institution and carry out the work to an extent that we could afford to pay the forensic institution, because it's a question of affordability as well. You just do as much as you can afford. The rest, unfortunately, you cannot do further.
I understand. So forensic is obviously a very technical field, but the reason why I'm asking Mr. Noa whether you have capacity is in 2019, President Hage Geingob wrote to you to say that he had some ministers that are implicated in allegations of corruption, and he wrote to you to investigate, and you cleared Saki Shangala, what is the man that the former Minister of Mines, Mr. Obeth Kanjode, and then Alpheus Ngarusebu, who was the Minister of Works at the time. You cleared this men, all of them. As we speak now, Mr. Noa, Saki Shangala is in jail. Of course, he's not convicted of any corruption or anything, but he's in jail because the other investigations went on to find substantive prima facie cases, they would call it in law. That's why I'm asking if you have capacity really to satisfy yourself, because why did you clear them at the time?
All right, no, thank you. Thank you for asking that question. In fact, there is a misconception about what the president did as far as those allegations that were made against certain ministers. Yeah. You see, the ministers are appointed by the president. Yes. They are part of his cabinet. And the president, being committed to good governance and the fight against corruption, the president could not sit idle when the media was writing about allegations implicating these ministers. That is why the president reached out to them to give their explanation on those allegations made against them by the media. Yeah. They made their submission to the president. When the president received their explanations, the president then, knowing very well that there are institutions of accountabilities in the country that have been set up, one of such institutions being the Anti-Corruption Commission, the president then decided to refer their explanations to my office with a reason that in case if there is something in their explanation that ACC believes can assist them to take whatever action or decision to investigate. Yeah. Those are the explanations that have been given to them. The president did not write and say investigate, because the president could not say investigate, because the president would not know whether what is really there constitute corrupt practices. He only sent us to ask what has been explained to them by the ministers. Remember, at that time, let's start with Honorable Kanjode. At that time, ACC had already initiated preliminary investigations against Honorable Kanjode before he was called by the president to give his explanation. ACC had already approached Honorable Kanjode with a summons to explain what was being alleged in the media. And he had already given us, because the allegation there was about the appointment of this C60 company. And we also wanted to know under which law did he do that. And he explained to us, even making reference to the section of the law in terms of which this C60 was appointed, and the motives or reasons why he felt that it was necessary to appoint such a company to deal with those NAMDIA things. You know, I don't need to go into detail because NAMDIA was not implicated in these things. What we're inquiring is about how C60 came about to be appointed. He gave us a detailed explanation. When he was then called by the president to give an explanation, we had all those records in our file already. Yeah. The response of Honorable Kanjode that came from the office of the president was not deviating from the explanation that he had already given to ACC on the basis of our own initiation to inquire into those allegations, as we pick it up as well from the media. It was reported in the media. So there was no grounds for ACC to do anything further, because there was no new information that justified any action against Honorable Kanjode. Up to now, let me just also inform you that ACC, whenever we have made an inquiry or investigated somebody and we find no evidence justifying further actions, we close our file. But closing the file by ACC is not an end in it. If anyone, even today, if anyone comes to the office of the Anti-Corruption Commission with evidence implicating Honorable Kanjode or anyone else, the file is already there. We will not invent the wheel. We simply open the docket. It is there. Yeah. The only reason why a file is closed and this is what the law says, when you find no evidence, you close the file. But if evidence surfaces from wherever, the file gets reopened.
I hear you.
Yes.
We'll go for a quick break, Mr. Noah, and then we continue this conversation, because it's good that we have ticked off the Kanjode box. We come to Shangala. Yeah. We go for a quick break.
Thank you.
E-Ticket, your online ticket solution for events and event marketing, bringing you ease of mind and making sure that your event gets out there. For more information, contact events@nmh.com.na.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master. Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
We continue our conversation with Paulus Noa. He's the ACC Director General. So in the case of Saki Shangala, what went there? Because you see, again, Mr. Noa, the thing is, when the ministers write letters or to the president, replying to the president's request for information, none of them will come and say, oh, yes, Mr. President, I'm actually implicated in that. They will always write flowery about themselves. So how can that be the basis then to say, oh, they are saying there's nothing wrong and therefore we clear them, for argument's sake?
No, we did not clear on the basis of the mere response that they gave to the president.
Yeah.
Like I told you about Honorable Kanjode,
Yes.
that even prior to the president requesting him to give an explanation, we had already carried out the investigation. Yeah. The same exactly applies to Mr. Shangala. Look, Mr. Shangala, it was not in connection with this current matter that landed him in custody.
Yeah.
It was about the contracting of foreign lawyers to work on this issue of genocide.
Yeah.
There were lawyers contracted, and I must say that these lawyers were not contracted in secret. I'm saying it was not in secret because all these years, the Ministry of International Relations and Cooperation had been paying these lawyers, paying their fees for the apparent work that we were doing. This is what I came to establish when I decided to investigate. Again, in that particular matter, I opened a file to find out what transpired. After then Minister of Finance, Honorable Sledgeman, just raised his general concern about the payment, lot of payment that was being made. Then I had to write a letter to the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation to give me explanation on what happened here on this. And then the minister explained to me in writing, even telling me that they've been paying. The only concern only came now because the latest, that was the last amount that they have to clear, seems to be higher comparing to the others. And the budget that they had allocated specifically to those foreign lawyers had been depleted. They requested now the Ministry of Finance to get money from maybe from the contingent or wherever to pay off that. You see, that was the issue.
Yeah.
Saki himself, we also approached him, and he also gave us 2 files. They are still in our office there, with explanations of these lawyers who have been contracted and why they have been contracted and so on. Now, I was saying, and I'm still insisting, okay, before I go to that, when His Excellency the President requested also Saki to explain, because these allegations were circulating in the media.
Yeah.
Saki gave exactly the same explanation that he had already given to us during the course of our investigation.
Yeah.
The President also sent me that explanation. When I read it, it was just like a copy and paste. It's an explanation that we have already.
Yeah.
On the basis of which we could not say these lawyers corrupted the Namibian system by demanding their fees for the contract that they have signed between the Office of the Attorney General and themselves to save whatever they were saving, whatever research and so on. I cannot go into details of the terms of reference of what they exactly supposed to do and so on, because remember that the Office of the Attorney General is the contract between him and the client is a matter of agreement between the lawyer and client consultations. But then all what I can say to you is that he provided us with files of documentations that are still in the Anti-Corruption Commission as we are speaking to now. The explanation that he gave to the President, which was also shared with us, is still with the Anti-Corruption Commission. All this did not amount to anything because no one, as I'm speaking to you, came forward, and this is what I have been calling upon. I said, no, look, if there is anyone, including the Minister of Finance, have information that implicate either the lawyers or Saki in any criminal wrongdoing, come forward, give us an affidavit under oath on the basis of which we'll be able to legitimately decide to look into this matter. We cannot just randomly start implicating the lawyers when we have got no legal justification to say that they have corrupted the system. Otherwise, we'll put this government into trouble because those are acclaimed international lawyers. The fact that Namibia decided to contract them is because Namibia felt that they have got these skills to conduct research on this history relating to genocide. And if we have to accuse them of criminal wrongdoings without any basis of suspecting them, it will put the government into a serious problem. Yes. If there was anyone who had information that Saki colluded with any other person, we were waiting, and we are still waiting. As I'm speaking to you, we are still waiting. The file is there. As I said, that closing the file is not the end of anything. People must come forward if they think they have, even journalists. Journalists, you people should not just run away. You know, you hide yourself behind these reliable and reliable sources, and then you never wanted to come forward and in confidence share with the investigating bodies who is this source so that we can approach the source. You see? That's the thing.
I hear you.
Yes. When you have a skeleton file just like that, and there's no basis for you to move investigation any further, the justifiable thing you do is to close it and keep it in the shelves. If any person comes on board later and say, no, look, we have this evidence, definitely you pick up that very same file, reopen it, and continue with the investigation. Let me give you an example of the fish rot.
Yeah.
When we were in 2014, when we were just investigating allegations of Namcor was complaining that their quotas have been cut, you know, this fish quotas have been cut and so on, the appointment of a chairperson for this fish co and so on. Those were the only allegations that we were investigating, because no one else came up with information that there were bigger things. Even the people who were part of this, including the material whistleblower now, because at that time he was part of the very same corruption scheme. He was part of that. He was not anywhere prepared to come forth and share any information to Anti-Corruption Commission. The only time that the relevant evidence came in was in 2019, when he shared it with some of the colleagues at the Namibian Police Force there, and then they share the information with the Anti-Corruption Commission. It's when we kick off at the very same time, he was then sharing the same information with these other journalists and so on. And that's why some people say that no, ACC only investigated because this was reported by the media. But look, at that time, we were already busy with our underground investigation. At that time, we had already gone to Angola. At that time, we had already arranged with people outside how some of the investigator will be met on the other side. So, because you want to do things that make sure that the evidence is not going to be thrown out by the court. You don't just do things because the public wants you to jump. Remember, public came to the Anti-Corruption Commission marching so many times. And I stood my ground that, no, look, we have to investigate up to the time we come to a point that we needed to take action against whoever is implicated. We don't dance to the tune of public demand. We respect the public. We recognize their contribution in terms of making their voice heard. It's part of democracy. We respect their opinion. But at the end of the day, you have to do what the law requires you to do. If you don't follow the law, then you spoil a case which could have been a good case for prosecution.
I hear you. But Mr. Noa, is it not coincidental that if ACC had been investigating this fisheries bribery all along, that somehow the arrests and the prosecution only started really after this was reported in the media? Where would we have been today if the media had not come to the party?
If you say coincidental, it is coincidental in the sense that when the information was shared to the media, it was the very same, coincidentally, it was the very same, the ACC and other law enforcement agencies were busy with their investigation operations. You see, that is the only coincidence that you can talk about there. You see, that's the coincidence. Because now the very same person, it appears now, was what should I say? I don't want to call him playing double standard, but he was sharing to both investigating agencies and then to the media at the same time, at that very same time. But for us, we have to follow what the law requires us to follow so that we do not spoil our investigation. The media has to do, look, with you as a media, once you pick up something, you wanted to become the first to report on it before other media houses get on that information. But with us, we don't work like that. The law must be followed. You should be able to justify how you took action. If we have to search a certain premises, there are certain procedures that must be followed. If it's a private dwelling, you know very well that there must be affidavit taken first. And then application must be made before a magistrate or before a judge of the High Court for a warrant of search to be obtained. You don't just jump and go and grab whatever you find in the dwelling place. Remember, the Constitution protects
Everybody.
the fundamental rights and the freedoms of the Namibian people. You see, and the privacy is one of the rights that is protected in the Constitution. There are certain procedures that, remember we already discussed about some of the issues that cause delays in the court proceedings. These are some of the things, because the lawyers have to make sure that justice is done. They want to see whether all required procedures have been followed and there have been no violations of the rights of a suspect in the course of the investigation of that suspect. And these are the things that cause us, you know, to also go not necessarily slow, but making sure that we fill all the gaps in our process of investigation. Otherwise, we'll end up disappointed by the outcome of the court decisions.
I hear you. Johannes Stephenson, will he be called by the ACC as one of its key witnesses? What is the plan? The trial is coming up in October.
Look, I just want you to understand that the ACC is an investigating body. ACC is not a prosecuting body. Prosecution in the Republic of Namibia is vested in the Prosecutor General, according to the Constitution. And any witness who might be called to testify, that is the decision of the Prosecutor General. So I will not be, I don't want to step into that arena of who will testify in what matter and so on, because once we investigate, we hand over to the Office of the Prosecutor General, and it's that office from there take over and they decide whom to call as a witness and whom not to call as witness. Even when it's come to charging those people who have investigated, it is the decision of the Prosecutor General. It is never the decision of the Anti-Corruption Commission, like some member of the public perceives. It's not ACC that decide who should be charged, with what offense the person should be charged. We collect evidence, we summarize evidence, we submit to that office, and that office decided, yes, by virtue of the evidence that have been submitted to our office, this offense and this one have been contravened. Therefore, this person, and that's why you find sometimes more than one suspect are brought before court, but they are not facing similar charges. One may face one charge only, the other one is facing 3 or 4, and so on and so on and so on. It's a decision based on how evidence is implicating each suspect.
The last question before you go for the final break, Mr. Noa, then is I seem to think that ACC sometimes hide behind clauses. In the case of Minister Kanjode, for example, I know that one of the things that he said at the time was that the Diamond Act empowers him to skip some of these procurement processes. Like in this case of C60, I don't think there was any tender put out. He just picked the company because the Act allows him to do that. It's the same thing as Fishrot, where the Minister of Fisheries at the time was empowered by that amended Act to simply allocate fishing quotas as he wishes. Is that enough just to say because they are empowered by law that somehow we cannot pursue them? Because you could be empowered by law, but you still do this corruptly, hiding behind that law.
You are correct when you say you could still do this corruptly. We are very correct, and I don't want to pass judgment on any suspect now, But I only want you to just from your own observation to see why perhaps then Honorable Minister of Fisheries is in custody today. Possibly, I'm just saying possibly because I'm not passing judgment. We were just investigating. Though the Act gives some discretionary power, by virtue of evidence collected, that discretionary power is what resulted into, you see now, some act of corrupt practices perpetrated. You see now. If for argument's sake, the Minister of Fishery could have just used that discretionary power to allocate the quotas to non-right holders and end there. I'm saying this for argument's sake. And no issue of corruption, money being stolen, and so some company involved. You see, ACC would not have said now the minister, by virtue of allocating these quotas to non-right holders for the purpose of government objective that amount to corruption, because what would you conclude as a criminal intent there when something is meant for public benefits, government objective. But remember, this now went beyond that. It appears, I'm saying it appears because I say I don't want it to make judgmental conclusions. It appears this was now used as a cover to do, to do corruption things. Allocating as if certain things are meant for governmental objectives, but they were meant for certain individuals to benefit themselves. You can see now how this one went further. Discretionary power may amount to certain mere irregularity that may not necessarily be criminal corruption. You see now where the difference is. When you are given discretionary power, if you give me discretion to do something, I could still put certain mechanism in place to make sure that the whole process is transparent. Yes. But then when certain mechanisms perhaps have not been put in place and the law giving you that power is silent on that, and no corruption resulted from that, you would not say, Anti-Corruption Commission, just go and arrest this person who, in terms of the law that give him discretionary power, exercise that power to do something. You see where the difference lies now. I just want you to understand the difference. That's why sometimes we advocate that these things of too much discretionary power given to an individual should be discouraged. Not that because discretionary power is a bad thing, but you see, it's vulnerable to abuse. It can be abused in one way or another.
I hear you.
Now maybe you have made a difference now. Why the other one? And that's why I'm saying again, look, if anyone can come forward and say to us, look, even in this one, there was certain corruption involved that flow from that appointment. We'll consider that evidence. And that is the type of information that is not available to the Anti-Corruption Commission. The mere appointment itself, in as much as the public may not be happy with it because here is a person exercising the power given to him by the law, and they did not go public and advertise and so on and so on. In as much as it cannot be supported, at the same time, on mere ground of that exercise, you cannot drag it to the criminal court for prosecution. You may do something, yes, perhaps, but not, in the criminal court.
I hear you.
Yes.
We'll continue, Mr. Noa, instead of going for a break in the interest of time. So, what can you tell us about the Namcor issue? You have, your office had summoned Ims Mulunga first, and then the board members were individually called in also. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, the Namcor, it was in the public domain. You have read some articles on allegations of certain payments that were made.
Yeah.
And the public was really concerned about that. And in as much as the public was concerned, Anti-Corruption Commission, we pick it up and we initiate. Remember, the law gives us power to initiate certain inquiry. Mm-hmm. And the same power that we exercise when we investigated Honorable Kanjo, we did exactly the same. Yeah. Here, what we did is that we decided, when we read this article in the paper, we decided to open a docket. Of course, it was a skeleton docket, and the only document that was in the docket are the extract from various media newspapers. Why we did this is because we wanted to establish what actually transpired here. Based on those allegations, because here we felt that no, there were some reasonable grounds for us to look into the allegation. The purpose is to establish whether there are some criminal wrongdoings whereby this money did not even reach the destination where it was meant to be deposited into.
Yeah.
And that was the reason why we had to, what we did first, we served summons on Mr. Mulunga, the managing director of Namcor, with a list of information that we wanted him to give explanation on. He came together, I remember he came with 2 other officials. Yeah. And he spent the whole day with the investigating officer there. And we also informed him that he should, because it's not just a matter of providing us with a statement, it's a question of also every statement that you make must be supported by the documentary proof, if that documentary proof is available. Yeah. If it's not available, you should be able to give an explanation on the non-availability of that documentary proof. Yeah. That's exactly what he did. He brought, he gave us a statement. He brought some documents, even a document where this company was approved by the board, and also the power that was given him by the board to do what he was required to do on behalf of Namcor. Because eventually, remember that there was this joint venture company, the Sungara company that was set up by this joint venture company, the 3 companies that are part of that. And it's through this company of theirs that won that oil block in Angola. So he provided with all the information that was at hand and his explanation. I will not go into details of what explanation he gave to us here. That based on, because look, when you are carrying an investigation, you don't just listen on one side of the story and then you make your conclusion. Yeah. That's why even in court, when someone is being prosecuted, that very same person is given an opportunity not only to cross-examine the state witnesses, but also to call, in the first place, to give his side of the story, and to call his witnesses also to give their side of the story.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's exactly what we were doing here. We could not just listen to Mulunga and get satisfied with his explanation. We had to call in the board member. Remember, board members, and we needed to take this matter very serious, because a lot of what is happening in this country is perhaps because some of the board members who are governing bodies of respective various institutions, perhaps it's because they do not do what is required from them.
Yeah.
You know, when you have a board member, is a body that governs that institution. I'm not accusing them here. I'm not saying that they have not done their work. No, no, no.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to give you a general picture of the responsibility of a board and why it was necessary to call them.
Yeah.
We need to call them because they are the right person to tell us during the course of our interview, to explain to us what actually transpires, and their explanation, we put it against the explanation given to us by the managing director. Either they will agree, even showing them certain documents. It is you who gave these powers to the managing director to do X, Y, Z. You agree or not? We show you a document of the resolution, if it has been provided to us. This resolution, was it taken by the board or not?
Yeah.
Look at this signature here, this your signature, and all the things. In addition to a detailed explanation they needed to give.
Yeah, yeah.
Ultimately, we need to satisfy ourselves from the horse's mouth themselves, whether the money they're talking, which is being alleged in the media now, and what the managing director has mentioned in his statement, has it reached, for example, Sanongal, or it has not reached Sanongal, and so on.
Yeah, yeah.
We wanted them to explain what would have happened if this money has not been sent, and so on.
Yeah, yeah.
Would have been there a breach of a contract, or what could have been the damage ultimately to the Namcor as against the Sonangol and so on?
Yeah.
Remember, the payment to Sonangol, this other money that Namcor was due to pay, was not really, it came out that was not really the concern here.
Yeah.
The main concern is that additional, apparently additional money paid on behalf of this other. I will not go into detail because I mean the managing director has also his own justification of why some of these things has to be done and what other agreements were then put in place and so on and so on. But from the board, because this is the governing body, from the board side, it's for us to understand whether, in their view, the right procedure was followed or not. What the managing director could have done before and so on. All the things has been done and so on.
Absolutely.
Is there something that went wrong somewhere? And again, ultimately, after all this information has been given to us, is to listen to them and find out from them whether from their objective opinion, they think there is criminal corruption that has been, because that is our, that is our area of interest now.
Absolutely.
Yes. Whether there is any criminal corruption which has been committed, or it was a mere issue of administrative irregularity, if that is what they perceive, that there were some irregularity in terms of the processes and procedure that were not followed. We needed to hear from them. That is basically why we have to call them in. And they all come because we summon all of them. Each of them was given his respective date when to come and give his or her statement, starting with the chairperson. Yeah, that was the purpose. Because look, we have to be very fair. We have to be transparent in our own process of how we approach certain things, so that we don't look as if we are siding with any of the parties here. As I'm speaking to you, they have all given their statement.
Yeah.
I'm now busy reading all the statements and all documents that have been provided to the ACC, so that ultimately we come up with our own summary of our findings in this and conclude whether we find some elements of criminality or there are no elements of criminality in them.
Yeah. So you cannot give me an exclusive breaking news now that...
I know. That I don't do.
Okay, no, that's fine. We've run out of time, Mr. Noa, but I have to disappoint my director there and just ask you one quick question, if you can give me a very, very quick answer to what is the status of the investigation into the Katrina Hanse Marwa farm issue. Her son got a farm, and the former Minister of Lands, Alfred Ngarusebo, was also being investigated in that regard. What is the status of that matter?
All right, to be quick, as you have just requested me to do, the docket you just referred to, as we are speaking, is with the Office of the Prosecutor General.
Yeah.
And the Office of the Prosecutor General is making a progress in terms of reading that docket.
Yeah.
They are actually making a progress because they are in consultation with my investigator as far as that docket is concerned.
Okay.
So it's receiving attention.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Mr. Noa, thank you very much for making time. Really, it's always a pleasure talking to you.
My pleasure. Thank you,
Yes. That is tonight's show with Paulus Noa. He's Director General of the Anti-Corruption Commission. Good night.
We are so excited to be kickstarting your morning with entertainment.
Everything was happening during this past weekend.
Yes.
Exciting news.
Wow, no, she was killing it already.
In my opinion, I don't see anything wrong with him serving the full term.
As well as keeping you informed on the issues that you need to know happening in and around our country.